The sun began its journey at the Tropic of Capricorn at the winter solstice, where it made its fastest and largest circle over the earth. For the next 3 months, every day the sun slightly narrowed its path and slowed its speed until by the spring equinox the sun had spiraled its way from the Tropic of Capricorn to the equator. Then for the next 3 months, again every day, the sun continued to slightly narrow its path and slow its speed until the summer solstice, when the sun made its smallest, slowest circle around the Tropic of Cancer. Once the sun reached this innermost circle, like the ribbons and dancers around the maypole, the sun would then begin its opposing, widening, quickening journey back to the Tropic of Capricorn. For the next 3 months, every day the sun slightly widened its path and hastened its speed until the autumnal equinox, the sun had spiraled its way from the Tropic of Cancer back to the equator. Then for the next 3 months again, every day the sun continued to slightly widen its path and hasten its speed until the winter solstice, when the sun made its largest, fastest circle around the Tropic of Capricorn, and the annual journey began again.
So this is a webcam footage, and I will show you wherein lies the lie. So you see the sun come and go from your upper right to your upper left. And let's watch the shadow of the stick that's straight in front of us. So the kind of green one, straight ahead. Let's watch, keep an eye on that shadow, and you'll notice that the camera simply resets. So here comes the shadow towards us. But why don't we get to see the shadow go around? Notice that the shadow of the green flag is coming around, but we never see it go in front of the green flag. Why is that? Because the sun isn't going around the continent. If it was, we would see the sun go around, then it would be behind us. If the sun was behind us, the shadow of the green flag would be in front of it. But that never happens. What happens is the sun is coming in from the northeast, coming across the horizon and going off to the northwest. You can even watch the sky. If you watch the sky, you'll see it is circling northeast to northwest, not circling around us. Again, if it was going around us, we would see that flag pointing straight forward. So this is just one of the examples. I've got some more footage here to show you. But if you just go look, best place to go would be www.antarctica.gov.au/webcams/ you can put Casey, Davis, Palmer, and you're going to get webcams for those particular stations. Pay close attention to the date and time up in the upper left-hand corner, and you'll see that there's definitely an issue with what we're taught. One of the easiest ways to prove that also is the amount of time that it would get all-day sun or all-day night versus the North Pole. And we've got people who live near the North Pole, in Norway, in Alaska, in Canada, and those people can tell us what they see. And what they see does not match the opposite down in Antarctica, meaning if in the North Pole they're getting 4 months of full sun, then at that exact time the South Pole should be getting 4 months of full no sun. Doesn't happen. At the most, they get 6 weeks. So it simply means we don't live on a globe. Now you'll notice here that they start, when the sun starts getting really low, they'll actually blow a fog or a smoke or could be even snow. I don't even know what they're blowing. But you'll see if you look straight ahead that there's a blower that blows along the horizon. The reason for that is so that people who are down there don't get to see what the sun is actually doing, which is not circling their heads. Now, I will admit that for 6 weeks a year, Antarctica does get full sun. I've seen it on these webcam footages, but it is not, they don't have a view of the sun. So I know it doesn't make sense, and I fully admit that this is something that we need to research, because somehow when the sun leaves to the northwest and circles all the way on the other side of the earth in its daily path, somehow it is remaining bright in Antarctica. Now, is that because of something in the atmosphere? Is it being some sort of reflection? Not sure. But it does prove two things. A, that it needs to be studied. B, that it's not a globe. Because if it was a globe, you would simply see the sun do a complete circle above your head. Now we can see this flag straight in front of us. Tell me why don't we see, where's the shadow of the flag at the, I don't know, what would you say, probably from 7 o'clock till midnight. As far as a clock, we don't ever see the shadow there. See how the shadow starts at about 5 o'clock, or no, that's about 7 o'clock, and rotates counterclockwise, we see it come all the way up to about 1 and disappear every single time. That again comes down to, if they're lying to you, there's a reason. If things are real, you would have a 24-hour webcam. Think of the ISS. We don't get to see 24 hours of footage from space, just like we don't get to see 24 hours of footage from Antarctica. But you can watch pandas for 24 hours, or you can watch the grave of Andy Warhol. And so what I'm saying, as I've said a million times, is use your head. Why wouldn't they show you 24-hour footage from Antarctica? It's because it doesn't match what's in textbooks, because it's not true what's in textbooks, because it is not a continent on the bottom of a big ball, mostly because you can't live on a ball.
If the Earth were actually a spinning globe revolving around the Sun, the only place such a phenomena as the midnight sun could be observed would be at the poles. Any other vantage point from 89 degrees latitude downwards could never, regardless of any tilt or inclination, see the sun for 24 hours straight. To see the sun for an entire revolution on a spinning globe at a point other than the poles, you would have to be looking through miles and miles of land and sea for part of the revolution. Anyone below the 89th parallel could never witness the sun for 72 hours, 3 whole revolutions, straight, because to do so would be to assume you are somehow seeing through the globe and to the sun on the other side. Since such an assumption is ridiculous, and yet the midnight sun can clearly be seen as low as the 65th parallel, this is another absolute proof that the Earth is the flat, stationary center of the universe. Thomas Winship wrote, "If the Earth be a globe, at midnight the eye would have to penetrate thousands of miles of land and water, even at 65 degrees north latitude, in order to see the sun at midnight. That the sun can be seen for days together in the far north during the northern summer proves that there is something very seriously wrong with the globular hypothesis. Besides this, how is it that the midnight sun is never seen in the south during the southern summer? Cook penetrated as far south as 71 degrees, Weddell in 1893 reached as far as 74 degrees, and Sir James C. Ross in 1841 and 1842 reached the 78th parallel. But I am not aware that any of these navigators have left it on record that the sun was seen at midnight in the south." Heliocentrists also cannot explain why the midnight sun phenomena is not experienced anywhere in the southern hemisphere at any time of year. Quite to the contrary, it has been recorded by the Royal Belgian Geographical Society in Expedition Antarctique Belge that during the most severe part of the Antarctic winter, from 71 degrees south latitude onwards, the sun sets on May 17th and is not seen above the horizon again until July 21st. This is completely at odds with the ball Earth theory, but easily explained by the flat Earth model. The midnight sun is seen from high altitudes in extreme northern latitudes during Arctic summer because the sun, at its innermost cycle, is circling tightly enough around the polar center that it remains visible above the horizon for someone at such a vantage point. Likewise, in extreme southern latitudes during Arctic summer, the sun completely disappears from view for over 2 months, because there, at the northern tropic, at the innermost arc of its boomerang journey, the sun is circling the northern center too tightly to be seen from the southern circumference. Sammy Robotham wrote, "It is evident that in the great encircling oceans of the south, and the numerous islands and parts of continents which exist beyond that part of the earth where the sun is vertical, cannot have their days and nights, seasons, etc., precisely like those in the northern region. The north is a center, and the south is that center radiated or thrown out to a vast oceanic circumference, terminating in circular walls of ice, which form an impenetrable frozen barrier. Hence, the phenomena referred to as existing in the north must be considerably modified in the south. For instance, the north being central, the light of the sun advancing and receding gives long periods of alternate light and darkness at the actual center, but in the far south, the sun, even when moving in its outer path, can only throw its light to a certain distance, beyond which there must be perpetual darkness. No evidence exists of there being long periods of light and darkness regularly alternating as in the north. In the north, in summertime, when the sun is moving in its inner path, the light shines continually for months together over the central region and rapidly develops numerous forms of animal and vegetable life. In typical reverse-engineered damage control fashion, trying to explain away the midnight sun, problematic Arctic and Antarctic phenomena, and the fact that Polaris can be seen to 23.5 degrees south of the equator, desperate heliocentrists in the late 19th century again modified their theory to say the ball Earth actually tilts back 25.5 degrees on its vertical axis, thus explaining away many problems in one swoop. If it simply tilted the same direction constantly, however, this would still not explain the phenomena, because after 6 months of supposed orbital motion around the Sun, any amount of tilt would be perfectly opposite, thus negating their alleged explanation for Arctic and Antarctic irregularities. To account for this, heliocentrists then added that the Earth also wobbles in a complex combination of patterns known as planetary nutation, the Chandler wobble, and axial precession, which, in their vivid imaginations, somehow explains away common sense. Common sense, however, says that if the heat of the Sun travels 93 million miles to reach us, a small axial tilt and wobble, the difference of a few thousand miles, should be completely negligible. If the ball Earth actually spun around 93 million miles from the Sun, regardless of any tilt or wobble, temperature and climate the whole world over should be almost completely uniform. If the heat of the Sun truly traveled 93 million miles to reach the Earth's equator, the extra few thousand miles to the poles, regardless of any supposed tilt or wobble, no matter how extreme, would surely be negligible in negating such intense heat. E. Eschini wrote, "The supposition that the seasons are caused by the Earth's annual motion round the Sun at a mean distance of 93 million miles is grotesque. According to Piazzi, the size of the Sun is in proportion to the Earth as 329,360 to 1. The diameter exceeds that of the Earth 112 times. The Earth appears, as Biot says by this statement, a mere grain of sand as compared to the Sun. This enormous expanse of light, focused on a rotating grain of sand, at the distance of 93 millions of miles, would cause the same season throughout it. The paltry few miles in comparison that separates London from Cape Town could never cause diverse seasons, neither would the distance from London to the Riviera justify the difference in the climate that characterizes the two places. Common sense also says if the Earth were actually a ball spinning daily with uniform speed around the Sun, there should be exactly 12-hour days and 12-hour nights everywhere, all year round, regardless of any alleged tilt or inclination. Half the sphere would always be lit, and the other half not. The great variety and length of days and nights throughout the year all over Earth testifies to the fact we do not live on a spinning ball planet. There cannot exist phenomena such as this on a globe, nor the midnight sun, nor anything like Antarctic winter, where the sun is nowhere to be found for over 2 months per year.
morning, welcome to my laboratory. This has been kind of difficult to capture. I want to show interesting interactions with magnetic field from this plasma device. So I had to position the camera carefully. This is really hard to capture. You're looking down onto the apparatus. This right here, of course, is the central spherical electrode, and then this is the copper mesh grid, and then that's the copper tube, and then of course there's the glass enclosure. Here's what the plasma looks like turned on, and you see this little lump of white here. So, I forgot to say, yes, in this experiment is the cathode, and the ring and the sphere are the anodes of the flyback output. Okay, and if I turn the system on, you can see that there's this generalized blue glow, but there's this white lump right here, and then there's the white ring there. These, I believe, are the remnants of the anode glow, and then the blue, all this blue, of course, is the cathode glow.
I was watching a documentary about Earth lines, and I wanted to follow the video by checking out Google Earth myself. So I downloaded Google Earth, and while I was playing around with it, I thought to myself, let me look at the globe. And while looking at the globe, I moved upwards, and noticed that without hitting any significant amount of ice, I was suddenly in Siberia over here. It's this area. So I wondered, where is the North Pole? And looking at this image here, the North Pole should be around here. If I correct the axis here, it's not the magnetic North Pole. Our North Pole should be somewhere around here. This is the most northern part of Earth, but I honestly do not see any ice there. And so I thought, okay, maybe there isn't ice there. Maybe what we consider the North Pole is just this part over here, which is Greenland. So I checked up some online resources on the North Pole and what is the North Pole. And it says here online about the North Pole that basically the North Pole is also known as the geographic North Pole or terrestrial North Pole, is defined as the point in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so that's the pole, right? But what about the icy area over there? So I tried to take a look at some images on the North Pole. And looking at these images here, some of them clearly show something different. Like, look at this, there's a whole bunch of ice. Or look at this here, or look at this one here, there's a whole bunch of ice. See, this is Greenland that we have here on our image, Greenland. Now the question is, where is all this ice? Now I know there have been climate summits recently, last year, and Iceland and Greenland. I know Iceland, they were asking people for help with the climate, to take care of their climate stuff. Because the ice is melting over there. And I know Russia and America, many countries are diving into the resources over there, but that's something else. My general question is, if anybody knows whether the ice that we call North Pole, that huge floating chunk, has molten away, or did Google Earth smudge it out like in so many cases there have been claims that Google Earth just smudges out stuff and just takes it out. So I would wonder, why would the North Pole be taken out? Because if we go down here, we clearly see the South Pole. Is there. Okay, we see the South Pole. So we go back up again. All the way up here, there's no North Pole.
Looks like metal.
It is iron nickel.
It's iron nickel?
Uh-huh.
So tell me about this thing. This is like one
It's
of
the
the few
biggest
pieces.
piece.
This is
found.
the biggest piece?
It's the biggest piece found from the one that made the crater. It weighs
Holy
1,406 pounds.
This thing right here is.
92% iron.
This is 1,000.
7% nickel. That one is 1,400.
This thing right here is.
92% iron.
This is 1,000.
7% nickel. That one is 1,406 pounds. 92% iron, 7% nickel, and about 80 different trace minerals. And it arrived here from the asteroid belt that lies between Mars and Jupiter.
This is awesome.
Good.
This is awesome. I have to film it. Show my wife.
All right.
Is that
The
cool?
next movie
Are
will
you
be
like
at-
the expert? You've been here a while or what?
No, I'm just the tour guide.
Oh, cool.
But I've been here a while. The movie will start at 4:30. It's a 10-minute movie.
Okay.
Doors close automatically, but you still have time to either do the museum.
Yeah,
or
I gotta go check out the big hole.
Go
Which way's the hole?
Check out the hole.
Oh, the crater.
To my
There it
left,
is.
right there where it
Okay.
says crater.
Cool.
To my left.
Crater. So this is a picture of what
Oh,
I'm
crater.
about to go check out from up in the sky.
Yes. Hello, folks.
Hey, how's it going?
Guys,
You're
this is
just
the
arriving. The
biggest
crater's
piece.
right over there. The
Right
next
there.
movie will be at 4:30.
They found it.
Great, thank you so much. You're welcome.
That's just unbelievable that that is the piece.
Uh-huh.
What do you think happened to all?
This time is running out.
Okay, I'm
Now
running.
You can do the museum.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Let's go check out Meteor Crater.
Le esperamos aquí adentro.
There it is. Whoa. We should go down in there, huh? We got 30 minutes to hike this massive trail. So there's just a spring. Looks like they were just digging for water. Honestly. This looks like a bunch of thousands of native men together digging for water. That's not true. It's not that big. Guys, I was just in there. Wow.
Not only can this happen again, it will happen again unless we choose to do so. Not only can this happen again, it will happen again unless we choose to. In our neighborhood, there's
not
a
that
lot
big.
of other asteroids that are whizzing
There.
past.
What city is that they
These are
put
the
in there?
asteroids that
Guys,
cross
it's not that big.
nearer than
I'll go
we
show you
can
right
hit.
now.
We've only surveyed
In the
about
video, they put a whole entire city inside of this thing. I mean, they seriously, they just put a whole entire fucking city. It's not that big, guys. It's not that big. You can't put a city in there. I mean, I'm telling you, like, that city had, like, gigantic trees and skyscrapers. That's a bush right there.
something more like this.
I pay $18 with a discount to come here, and it seems like, other than the hole that's not as big as it looks on TV, other than that, we're gonna go watch a movie. So, you know, you gotta show me a movie while I'm here at the site about what it means, about what it is. Look at this. Oh gosh. It's a compass, that's for sure. It's a compass. Milky Way home. compass up there. Quasars. This illustration depicts an artist's conception of current theories about the nature of the universe. Galaxy formation, the edge of the universe. A photo or painting, guys. How about that one? It's a good one. Science news. Wham! Proof that it happens elsewhere. It's a meteor hitting someone's car. Sure. Sure it is. Put yourself at ground zero. Do not press the red button. I'm at ground zero right now, guys. Oh shit. Paint, photo or painting.
The incoming meteor created Meteor Crater in less than 10 seconds. The meteor was moving at an incredible speed, about 11 miles or 18 kilometers per second. The power of the blast sent hurricane-force winds in all directions and threw about 175 million tons of material out of the crater.
Doesn't seem that
Most of the
way.
meteor melted at the shock of impact.
Oh, okay.
And much of it spread.
So where
as a
did it go
large
if it
plume
melted them?
produced by
I mean,
gases
it didn't
released from the
vaporize.
impacted rock. Some of the melted meteor reformed as sand grain-sized metallic particles called spheroids.
Oh, like hemorrhoids. Spheroids. Look, guys, I found a globe station. Density, angle, Earth. Okay, so we got a globe video game here. Alright, so select object. Select object? Oh shit. Impact. I want higher velocity, and I want an angle, and I want some diameter. Go ahead and run simulation now for me. Oh, here's the simulation, guys. I created this. Oh, isn't it beautiful?